Hey there, kids. It's your LoreDad here with a new video. It's going to be semi-unscripted this time because I'm doing a Q&A. My community wanted to know more about me, and we thought we could do something cool for Christmas. It's not Christmas, so we'll just say this is a New Year thing. Yeah, I had some questions asked to me on my Discord. You can come and check my Discord out here. Link in the description. So we had some very serious questions and some not serious questions, so we'll just get right into it. Cheese or bread? Yeah, quite interesting, right? Cheese is way better because bread has gluten. Gluten can cause some health issues, so I would just rather have cheese, because if I ate bread for the rest of my life, then I'd just be screwed. And cheese actually can have some really good proteins in it, depending on the kind of cheese that you have. So I'd just pick cheese. And for the same reason, crackers or butter, I'd pick butter because at least butter has some nutritious value rather than crackers. What comes after Project Stresa? I want to do a bonus episode or two to talk about alternate endings and be able to have some more focus on the minor nations that didn't really get much content as I wrote things like Greece. I'm going to be making a Aftershocks of the Revolutions 2 lore video soon, talking about France, so stay tuned for that. Will I do a Stresa Season 2? That has been something I've been thinking of, but in order to be able to do that sort of thing justice, I would need to do a lot of research on Cold War stuff. The reason why I think I've been able to do so well with my Stresa videos is that I'm knowledgeable about World War II and a lot of different events that could have happened, so I'm able to incorporate those into the storytelling. And if I didn't have a good enough understanding of the Cold War and its entire, like, however many decades you'd say it has been going on for, if I didn't have any knowledge about that, or at least a wealth of knowledge about that, then I wouldn't be able to make good content. So I have been considering doing Stresa Season 2. It has been pretty interesting to me when I have been thinking about the things that could be happening afterwards. But at the very least, I'll leave a open-ended ending for Stresa. What nation do I root for in Stresa? I have my own ideological biases towards the Saxon allies, but whenever I do my storytelling, I try to be as unbiased as possible. Free France or Vichy France? I thought that I would like Free France more than I do, but I'm finding that through logic and working on things that the Free French government is basically a puppet government of Germany. After Deliroc's shift towards democracy, I'm more interested in seeing what a severely rightist France would do, especially with the dynamic between Italy and their land annexations from France and American influence. Favorite nations within the main alliances? And remember, I don't condone any of these ideologies in specific, but in the Saxon allies, I prefer Germany the most. A liberal Greater Germany was really interesting to me, and it has a lot of potential to be a force for good on the continent. Just their position, their economic strength, their access to resources, their land. There's a lot of good things that Germany could do. And even after losing 2 world wars, there's still a pretty major power in the European Union today. So if you think about what their economy would be like with Austria and Eastern Germany, like Prussia, there could be a lot of really cool things that they'd be able to accomplish. And with the right ideology, things are pretty cool. Latin Axis, it's really hard to choose given the variety, especially later in the series, but the Iberian Republic would be my pick if it weren't an American puppet. So I would actually say the Syrian state. The idea of having them succeed in executing the plan that they had envisioned with their strange ideology would have been really interesting to see. But the whole Sadabat Pact really made that impossible. When it comes to the commentary, there's not really much to say because it's mostly the Soviets are just their puppets. But I really like the Iraq collaborator idea that Serov had. Also, it wasn't my idea. I mentioned it in the video. But Serov, he is a member of the community and he suggested that. So it's pretty cool seeing how Iraq sort of traded land that they couldn't really control for the benefit of being able to claim a lot of other land and being a capitalistic sort of thing there and potentially getting their oil back, maybe even playing both sides if the Latin Axis and Comintern win. It's a pretty interesting dynamic, and I am pretty interested in how that would work out. So I would say that's my favorite Comintern nation. Least favorite nations and alliances. My least favorite nation would have to be Italy because they started the war, they destabilized their own alliance by supporting the Vichy coup in order to solidify their stranglehold on the Latin axis and claim Greater Italy. And now they're being propped up by the Americans who will turn a blind eye to their fascist roots thanks to Grandi's betrayal and collaboration. Japan is pretty bad too given their track record in our history, but I think Italy's the worst. I really don't like them. When it comes to factions, I would say Comintern, but it's a pretty hard decision to make. My own ideological biases aside, a Comintern total victory would look pretty amazing. The amount of resources that they would have at their disposal could potentially lead to a pretty stable USSR. But in order to achieve that sort of civilization, there would need to be a lot of oppression. If the Americans didn't join the war, I would have easily said Latin Axis. But now that the Latin Axis is essentially an American-dominated alliance, the peace deals that would come from a Latin Axis victory would be much more lenient and fair than it would have if it was Mussolini and his friends running the show. So yeah, Cominterns are my least favorite, but not by much. Sport? Not much of a sports guy, but I'm obligated due to my citizenship to say hockey. Gaming videos? I wouldn't mind doing a couple streams of me playing video games. I've heard people asking me about this for a while now, so I wanted to bring it up here. Is seeing me play video games something that you'd be interested in? Maybe a second channel? Let me know what you all think in the comments. Why do you call yourself LoreDad? Well, I actually am a dad. I'm a father of two, a toddler and a newborn. I call them Lore Boy and Lore Girl. And yes, I do have a Lore wife. I considered several different names, but when it came down to it, LoreDad really stuck. It rolled off the tongue and really played to one of my favorite things in life, being a dad. What's my favorite holiday? I actually don't like many holidays. Having kids and seeing them enjoy it has made things a lot more interesting than it used to be for me. But if I had to pick, I would say Thanksgiving. It's the least pretentious holiday. Halloween is fun, but I'm not so much of a fan of the spooky aesthetic. And Christmas is way too consumeristic. I just don't like the idea of having to buy. So American Thanksgiving has definitely been consumed by the consumerism thanks to, Black Friday being more important than actually spending time with family. But that's not the case in Canada, so why is Project Stresa called Project Stresa? Well, it used to be a Stresa front timeline idea that I wanted to pursue, but then the premise changed because I was trying to determine what would actually lead to a Stresa front forming. The idea of Austria being admitted into Germany in 1919. I'm so used to saying that now. It wasn't even in the script. The idea of Austria being admitted into Germany would have caused that sort of alliance to form. But then the possibility of France and Italy sharing the same foreign policy aims versus Germany sounded way cooler than, oh my god, Stresa front because it happens. There are places for that, but I wanted to stand out. The name of the original idea stuck, and I've just been calling it Stresa ever since. Also, just calling a video series just Stresa when it's a city doesn't really make much sense. How do I edit my videos? I use Premiere to edit my videos, Photoshop to make the maps with the Qbam base map, and After Effects to edit them. I've considered making videos explaining how to make these sort of videos, but I would probably need to put them behind a Patreon/YouTube membership. Would you be interested in that sort of thing? Do you prefer Patreon or YouTube membership? Let me know in the comments. Favorite French political faction? I would say Marcel's neo-socialists would be the most interesting faction in the French political system in this timeline. The idea of neo-socialism, which is basically Nazism, developing without Hitler's National Socialism was pretty interesting to me. I thought that Déat could have potentially wrangled leadership from the rest of the factions, given the trajectory of the timeline. However, it didn't make much sense given the cascaded divergences leading to the collapse of the state. Maybe Déat would have had a better chance in another timeline. Stresa Hoi4 Mod? I've been trying to keep up with Stresa videos and Aftershocks lore development, but I'm pretty stretched thin. If somebody wants to take up leadership of a Stresa Hoi4 Mod, I would love to share some of my ideas in order to make something fun and accurate to my vision. But yeah, I just don't have the time to commit to helping design everything and help build it up from the ground up. It'd be cool to see what the community could potentially make, and I would totally give it signal boosts and all that. What's my favorite American state? I don't really have much of a favorite as a Canadian, but Texas is pretty awesome. I just like the culture. I like the people there. I have a lot of friends from Texas, so I would have to pick Texas. Also barbecue. Also Tex-Mex. I love that sort of like stuff. That's amazing. My favorite kind of food. Why history videos? Well, I was a pretty active member in the Hearts of Iron 4 modding community, but I wasn't a coder. I was a lore crafter, also known as an ideas guy. People in the community know the kind of guy I am talking about. However, I try to be a cut above the other idea guys, potentially the Optimus Princeps of idea guys, making comprehensive lore documentation in order to keep everyone on the same page, making sure nobody ever asks why this country has that leader, or codes in something that contradicts the main premise of the mod. After I'd write maybe, 10 pages of lore as a prelude before a gameplay proposal, which everyone would skip over, I eventually realized, why aren't I doing this for a job? I already had some experience with making videos due to my education, so I gave YouTube a shot and now we're here. It's really surreal to me. Inspirations in the alternate history community. Alternate History Hub. It seems like I've watched his videos even way before I knew I was like an alternate historian, I'd say, or even just like history. His art style is iconic, and he never uploads anything that doesn't make any sense. Overall, he's just a great YouTuber. Possible History is an inspiration for me too. I like him in his videos, and the fact that he grew so fast made me realize that there are people who are actually looking for this kind of content on YouTube. So yeah, his success really helped me, get the confidence to actually give my own style a shot. And I'm looking forward to potentially collaborating with him one day. He seems like a cool guy. Yeah. How many projects do I have in mind? Several. Way too many. But that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get into alternate history videos. There were several Hearts of Iron 4 alternate history mods that I would work on that would never get released because they got abandoned, and then all of the lore that I wrote out for it would essentially be lost. There are some really cool things that I made with several of my friends, as well as my own personal projects that I can repurpose into a profession. Overall, I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 projects, all varying in depth that are ruminating in my mind at the moment. I'm trying to take them on one at a time though. Tips for making alternate history. I'm going to be making a big video about this actually, but because there's so much to talk about, I'm only going to focus on one main thing, the biggest thing that helped me become a better alternate history YouTuber. The thing that you need to understand about alternate history is that it will always be fiction. No matter how hard you research or debate or flesh out your ideas with evidence, you will never make something realistic because realistically, that point of divergence you're mentioning didn't happen. That's not real. It can be plausible. Plausibility allows for you to have an assumption and build off of that assumption and make it into something really interesting. And that's what you should be looking for, plausibility. That's even one of the core tenets of Kaiserreich. If you want to be like Kaiserreich, it's plausibility, not realism. It's the most important thing that I've had to keep in my mind in order to make good videos. Once you accept that you're writing fiction, you'll have a lot easier of a time writing your alternate history. An example of this is when I was writing Stresa, I kept trying to think of, what would realistically happen? What would realistically happen? I want to cut myself off there because at this point I could just make an entire video based off my rants on what makes good alternate history. And I want to save that for a video. But with this in mind though, the whole alternate history is fiction thing, you need to remember that it's a balance. You need to be able to do research and actually check your own assumptions of history to make a actually potentially really good read or listen if you're watching my videos. So don't throw out historical knowledge completely, but also don't try to look for historical documents to prove your own idea. Instead, use it as ways to help inspire your alternate history, not the other way around. Am I bilingual? In Canada, they teach you English and French. It's basically required for a long time. But I was given an exception because I have dysgraphia. It's a learning disability. It impacts my ability to learn language. I have problems writing things without getting severe wrist pain. Yeah, I was always told I would never be a writer. And that sounds ridiculous if you've seen my videos, because you know I write all my videos. But back when I was first being taught, the whole age of computers thing hadn't really hit off yet. Like keyboards were only just starting to be allowed into school when I was able to, use my disability to explain why I would be on a computer rather than everyone else. But yeah, I was told I'd never be a writer because I couldn't handwrite. But now I'm typing all of my videos out every day. It's been quite a revelation for me, actually. Don't let other people tell you what you can't do. If you really believe in something, you can achieve it. How did I learn about Qbam? Like I mentioned before, I was seriously into Hearts of Iron 4 modding and making lore, but I was never really able to express my ideas because all I could really do is take a snipping tool of a Hearts of Iron 4 mod picture and then just draw scribbles over it. But one day my friend introduced me to it and I fell in love with it ever since. I've been using it for a long time to make my own maps and developed the sort of style that I have today. But yeah, that's all the questions I got, really. There are others, but I'm not going to answer them. Yeah, thanks a lot for watching. I cannot believe I have 3,200 subscribers. I cannot even really fathom it. I was initially thinking that I would get maybe monetized in a year, but I managed to get monetized within a couple months. And it's thanks to all of your guys' support of the videos, sharing it with your friends, commenting, liking it. This whole thing is just being able to make me, believe in myself more. And I'm very grateful for all of your support. And thanks for listening to my video, getting to learn more about me today. I'm hopefully going to have the next Stresa video out soon, but I want to make the last episode really impactful and end with a bang, let's say. Anyway, yeah, thanks a lot, everybody, and have a good day.